Hello everyone, it's Friday night and it is time for the Weekender once more. And on this week's show, I bring Ben and John on an expedition through history, fantasy and sci-fi gaming news. On top of that, we also have a prize from store.ontabletop.com. If you want a chance to win the new Team Yankee complete starter set for World War III, then come over to ontabletop.com to the video there and pop a comment below it. You may need to make a free account. Otherwise, sit back and relax because your weekend starts here. Hello everybody and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined this week by Ben and John. Hello guys.
Hello.
To get cracked into a regular episode. No sprinkling challenge, it's all done. Winners have sent in all their stuff en masse.
Mm-hmm.
So we should probably send those prizes to them soon. Yes, let's do that. Anyway,
we deem to give you your prizes.
We're very good that way. Some will get them, some will not. Depends how we're feeling. But yeah, it's been a busy month, a spectacularly busy week, and we've got some busier weeks coming up. So I hope people enjoyed the War Crow themed week we've just done for Corvus Belli with the lovely. It was a lot of fun. It's been interesting seeing people's feedback. Some people think Magic is really easy to pick up and play with. Other people are going, it's far too difficult. People are going, oh, it's very balanced. And other people are going, it's incredibly overpowered. And I love that. I love the disparity in people. They can view the same video and everybody has their own opinion.
I was going to say, Killian's rolls didn't necessarily go in his favour either. But
his rules were terrible. And I completely bucked the trend where I should have been a puddle of some sort of tinge-based goo on the floor a long time previous, but I didn't. I just kept cackling wildly as my eyes went fire.
That last Let's Play is very fun.
It's hilarious. So. Absolutely hilarious. So if you fancy checking that out, all the videos are up now. You can see what it is and their plans for expanding the Winds of the North box. And then hopefully we'll get back so we can talk about some of the other things that are coming from
that'd be cool.
War Crow as well, because obviously there's a ton of fun in the big book. Apart from that, we also had a ton of fun, myself and John, playing San Nazaire recently. 0200 hours, kicking around on our lovely little table as well. So if people haven't seen that, you can watch us fail miserably at 0200 hours. Over here. I won't say how it ended up, but I will say if I go to there. Oh, there's our lovely board. Look at it. Look, my new boot. Das Boot. Not to be confused with Das Belli, which is very much, I mean, look at that.
On display, yeah.
Yes.
I think both of us are on display there, so.
We be chunky monkeys, John.
Your belly and my thinning North Pole, so.
Yeah, it's all good in the hood. But yeah, so the delightful commandos raining in, trying to blow up Pump House and just cause as much bedlam and mayhem as they can in and around the port is there for all to see. How'd you find 0200 hours, John?
I really enjoyed it. I was initially I was sort of very anti World War II small skirmish, but I have to say the mechanics played in very nicely, and I did enjoy that sort of special forces feel that I got from it. So
I think that's key if you're
playing some more of that.
Yeah, if you're doing something small scale, make it bespoke.
Yeah,
compact and BG. I have a reason for there only to be, the inglorious bastards running around the place or whatever it happens to be. Give them a mission and send them off there. Because, like you say, if you're not saving Private Ryan, then why have they carved out 20 men to go and do something, or 12 men, or 5 or one poor man with a sniper rifle desperately trying to cover his mates, whatever it happens to be. It's an interesting wee system. And I do want to go back. I want to see what the partisans can do. Because I've got a bundle of partisans from Wargames Atlantic. So maybe some hello styly action on the tabletop, trying to take out Grouper's little tank. I don't know. Or
smuggle the fallen Madonna out or something.
With the big movies, that's the one. Yep. All of these
that would be amazing.
Historically accurate, and we should definitely do those. Does anybody know where we can get a 28mm French police officer from World War II? Just, asking for a friend. But yeah.
It'll be a good moaning if you do.
Yeah, I imagine there will be one out there languishing in the ones and zeros. But yeah, so if you fancy checking out some World War II or some fantasy, go and have a look at what we've been up to. Now, we should get into the show proper. And we, as always, start with the much missed last week, Indie of the Week. This week, I've decided to come out of left field at you because I do like doing this on occasion.
Okay.
I can't remember when it happened, but I either mentioned or brought up a blog that I look at on a regular basis, and somebody suggested that maybe that could be part of the Indie of the Week. Not that particular blog, but blogs in general, because there's a lot of great stuff out there, some of which tons of people know about because they may be attached to other people's projects or things like the Renaissance Troll. So Joe McCullough's blog is obviously massively well read. But there are other little niche ones out there which are absolutely cracking. And this one I really enjoy because it is both tutorial based and inspirational, shall we say. And this is Anabasis. Possibly not the correct pronunciation of that. Anybody at home who wants to try and correct my Greek, feel free. I won't be listening. It is, however...
But you speak such eloquent Greek.
Yes, that's true.
So.
The blog itself is by Andreas, Swedish fella. And he covers a whole host of things in here. So, most recent one being this Flags and Banners for the Late Medieval. But there's some absolutely delightful bits and pieces from his initial foray into wargaming, which came via the medium of his brother's birthday present, which his brother got a paint set with the Bretonian archers in it for Warhammer back in 98. And his brother couldn't care less. So he went, no, but I'll have these. These look great. And that started 25 years of madness.
It's my birthday now.
Yeah. So there was a retrospective from his first Spaca Marine through to what he's been doing later on. And I like this because a lot of blogs are very personal for people.
Yeah.
Obviously, some are connected to creators who are there to either supplement or be another feed for revenue, essentially. Let's face it. Because they've got a product to sell. But it's the gamers' blogs that I really adore, whether it's somebody who does battlefield tours or somebody who does immaculate research into whatever it happens to be. And in this case, Andreas is like that. This tells you who he is, where he's come from. And this is a fine example of pretty much what the blog is constructed like. A lot of in-depth tutorial in a text style with a lot of pictures, which are, for some unknown reason, all in focus. No movement in that at all.
They're very lovely pictures.
Paint pots shouldn't be in motion. So that's the man. But what has he got in here? Well, like I say, there's a lot of tutorials. So things like the modeling rebellious peasantry. And he definitely has an eye for the historics, even though he started with fantasy. So when he comes to do his tutorials, they tend to be accompanied with the cliff notes of his research. So
okay.
things like
That's neat.
explaining the muster process in the 16th century in Småland in southern Sweden, which, it's very close to Denmark and therefore terrible, or Scania. Anyway, but, all the bits and pieces he's managed to track down and find, whether it's reproductions of specific things or whether it's, woodcuts from specific books and the historical context for it, all explaining where this is going towards. Here's what I want to make. Here's what they would have been wearing. Here's the dyes or whatever it happens to be. And the historical context behind it. He's also helped out quite a bit because the Medieval Museum in Stockholm has a really nice section on dyes, which I've extensive photographs of. Because, I'm like that. Anyway, so how to create then your Swedish peasantry militia from the berries. And it's a step-by-step guide. Obviously, this is very specific to himself in this period in warfare that he's going towards. But again, he's an eloquent painter and speaker, both. It's very exact, specific, which I really like. And it's nice to see the basis behind things. Not the Anabasis, which is different.
I love the presentation of everything's fantastic.
Oh yeah,
and it's not a blog, labeled with as many adverts as they can fit into every section of the
100%
of the page, which is helpful. So,
I also quite like this linking on to other people's blogs, but obviously people will know David Emery's, who's Claymore. I want to say Claymore Castings. He paints all the stuff for Claymore as well, paints it for himself, essentially. So he's an exquisitely good painter. So, it is what it's all about. It's even like a wiki where here's the resources that I found. You've already read them, but maybe you want to go and read them yourself to make sure I'm not taking things out of context. Who knows? Always check your sources.
Go and find the woodcuts.
And then you've got things like the follow-ons to that, so where the Swedish lifeguards come from, or creating the foam board Stockholm, and again following Piers's projects. So we are not an insular community, but we're a small community, and it's great seeing people feed from one to the other and back again.
Yeah, definitely,
and things like that. The sundog painting from 1535. Obviously, I know you were thinking that, John. We were all thinking that. But then putting that into practice, putting together his houses and the detail on them, or how they're going to sort of come together. And this is just a flat stock background,
facade,
But if you think about this in the context of not just photography, but think about this in the context of 7TV. Don't build full buildings, build sets. You've got your set design going on, and you can use this sort of style of building for that. Although obviously, if you are going to go ahead and pose your figures in front of them, it's all great because it gives you a fantastic sort of finished article. And I like how he's got a set of figures up close and personal to the camera, so that you've got the over the shoulder point of view. Here's the crowd that you're shooting past with the focal length. And obviously for people like myself, taking a photograph of this quality is easy, but other people may not be as aware of the intricacies of setting, balanced ISO and all of those type of things. So he has a little tutorial section on miniature photography, from what you need to pick up all the way through to editing your photo, which is invaluable for the newcomer to the model maker's art. And whether that just happens to be get yourself a tripod or a clamp for your phone so you're not holding it by hand, and then flood the place with as much light as you possibly can.
Something to put your models on. And away you go. So.
And off you tot. Isn't that what they say? And then, goes into the bits and pieces behind all of that, which is really spanking. And it's just one of these blogs that has built up over time, filling with bits and pieces that they're working on. So, like I say, there's a deeply historical context towards it. But apart from the inspiration and the historical background for it, a lot of this can be pushed into fantasy anyway, or sci-fi if you really want to. Miniature photography is going to be the same whether you're photographing a 156th Rubicon tank or a 54mm SPAC Marine or whatever scale they currently are. All of that technical side of things remains the same. He also throws in bits and pieces on sort of new products he's picking up or whatever. So he'll do a review if he picks up a new range of miniatures, and you'll get to see things like that. I absolutely love this. The Caesarian army for the Siege of Alexandria is absolutely spanking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it has the background and history in there, along with what he's picked up and who he's picked it up from. Because sometimes you'll see miniatures and you'll be going, oh, what's going on there? Are they good enough? Will they match my existing range? What's the build like? X, Y, and Z. And in some cases, obviously with newer products, it's easy to find some things. Other times you're left wondering, and you'll find 2 or 3 people arguing over whether or not something is the same scale. Do Warlord match First Corps? Yes, they do. No, they don't. What are you talking about? And then obviously somebody else would chime in going, why are you buying either of those? Just buy Aventine. You go, that's not the question I asked. Anyway, it's nice. It's nice to be able to look at that. I also really like his little turtle as well, which unlike some of the other models that are made to be built into such, that one isn't. So he actually has a little tutorial on how he's built that as well.
Oh, wow.
So you too can build your own.
It's really nice.
Yeah. And those command bases are gorgeous.
There's something to be said about a written blog rather than just consuming video all the time as part of the hobby, I think. I mean, one, you get to see really nice photography most of the time, and I think that's really interesting. But two, I think, if you're on a train somewhere or whatever, or you're out and you just want to sit and read something for a little while, you don't want to burst through your data or whatever, having places like this where you can go and just read through stuff, I think is really cool. And I think a lot more people I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but I think a lot of people take a lot of care when it comes to blogs, especially ones like this where there's a lot of themselves put into it. And so you get to know a little bit about them as people and hobbyists, and then that can help feed through into what you do with your own hobby. So if you start to gravitate towards someone's ideas of how they hobby and what they do, you can kind of start to trust what they say and where they point you to and the different sort of companies they buy miniatures from as well. And I think it's very, very cool. And I'm glad to see that it's not a dying art, as it were, the good Wargamers blog. I mean, I say like McCullough's one is proof of that anyway, but having something as detailed as this is gorgeous. So
there are plenty out there. And I mean, obviously this is, I'm not going to say it's the high watermark, but it's certainly one of the top ones I follow. There will be ones, I've no doubt, in the future that will be the equivalent of Lloyd's postage stamp online catalogs, where people will just have to suck that one up. But I mean, this
is one that has been sourced from an old Yahoo page,
that type of thing.
And it's actually on the Wayback Machine.
Every link is broken. Only every third image works. That type of Don't worry about that. I will 100% be bringing you those. But yes, so the range itself, or the range of periods that he covers, obviously it runs through to the Dark Ages and then medieval period as well. Is Norse are particularly nice. We can play the Do I Own Those game, because that's gripping based, which I don't. But then these are some of the old Saxon ones from Mr. Patton, which I do. So I own him. I own half of them. there's a few people here and there that I don't own, which is terrible. So they have to go on the list of things I need to buy. This is how it works. I must own all the things. But yeah, simple case of batch painting and the colors being used. And this, again, the tutorial side of things is really nicely presented.
It's really handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like video tutorials for seeing certain things firsthand. Airbrushing. For years, I read written tutorials on airbrushing, and it would say, consistency of milk. And you go, it doesn't help. My airbrush keeps getting clogged, or, don't add this or do add this, depending. And it wasn't until I watched some videos and then was able to sit down with John and chat with Jay at Dan on one of his live streams on YouTube one day, where he just had like a little plastic shot glass and tilted it and went, see how the paint is clinging to the side, and then tilted it back. I went, and now it's slowly drying. That's how thin it should be. And just seeing it firsthand, all of a sudden changed my concept of it. Yeah. And for that, video tutorials are great. But on the other hand, having to stop and rewind because something's not, you've missed it, or the doorbell, or something's happened, and you're going, and then you end up listening to the same section like 5 or 6 times to try and get it. Whereas at least when it's here, you can just go, that's the bit of line. I'll read that bit. Okay.
So I don't put milk in my airbrush. That's
that type of thing. Yeah. Always use the paint. Don't worry, I own all of those. Some of mine are even painted.
I was going to say the photography, especially of some of the sort of action scene shots, reminds me a lot of the stuff from HVM and the work that the ones that they do for a lot of like fantasy and historical stuff. It's very, very cool. That samurai diorama looks amazing. Wow.
Yeah, this was a birthday present for his dad's 75th.
Oh.
So
super cool.
Yeah. Again, something different. As far as little diorama pieces go, I love the presentation of it inside the little sort of bell jar, I suppose. But it's still very nice that even though that's the present, that we got that. You can
see it in a larger scale there as well. Yeah.
And presumably they're on their little base, but then they've just been set into the terrain and then backdropped. So yeah, it's a fascinating blog full of all these things, and well worth having a journey through. Have your little own Anabasis, if you will. There's one other thing I'd like to point out that lives in here. There is a resource page, right to the top, apart from his gallery of very sexy painted miniatures. The resource page currently contains flags, photos, and more flags. So you have to download them because they're PDFs, but the ogre flags have been scaled for the Wargames Atlantic Landsknecht ogres. However, I mean, yes, technically they're for ogres, but I'm not saying they don't scream halfling at me.
Yeah.
But the giant black cock and the sausage with the cutlery are both very halfling based. And flags of ale, it's all good. So they're really nice. Like them.
They are lovely. Yeah.
He's also got the Swedish flags for Gustav. And again, really nice, technically Swedish, but at the same time, if you're doing any type of fantasy army and you're just looking to lay your hands on a nice set of pennants and flags, then there's some cracking ones in here.
That's perfect, yeah.
And really simple. Just print them out. PVA glue the absolute bejesus out the back of them and stick them on a flagpole and off you go.
And away you go, yeah.
Yeah. I imagine there's some Danes furiously typing at me. Feel free to link your own blogs below that have Danish flags on them instead. I will accept all blogs.
Only now will you get this, yeah.
The last one is there's a set of backgrounds for doing your photography. So if you want a nice sunset, night sky, just plain sky, or a little mountain range, just something to put in the background to add a bit of depth whenever you're doing those lovely photography shots, then they are available over there as well from Andreas.
Super cool.
Yeah. Thought something a little different. Might do one a month.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe every 2 months. Who knows? See how I'm feeling, people. Anyway.
Something a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit way. We don't always have to sell you things. Sometimes we can just gift
inspire.
You. Yes. Or like muses, like little Greek muses. We panpipe our way through the highways and byways of hobby, luring children
you definitely
astray.
See me in a toga musing.
Yes.
That's funny.
Toga. Anyway, I think it's time to move on for some news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay then, time for our first bit of news, and it comes via the medium of Corvus Belli, weirdly enough. And a crying Carlos.
So not content with dominating, or at least beginning to dominate the world of fantasy. They're here to make sure that they beat Games Workshop to the punch when it comes to like a mainstream animated show, because IGN posted the first teaser for Infinity Paradise Lost, which is going to be a big new animated series that is going to be coming out in the very, very near future. Don't ask me what platform it's on, because you don't know yet. We're going to know. There's going to be like a big talk at San Diego Comic-Con, I think, with the directors there as well. And they're going to reveal more information on the show, what it's all about, the characters, and everything else in between. There's a focus on Hack Islam, as you can see, as part of this new story, and someone who gets taken from a very Dune-esque beginnings, I suppose you'd say, and thrust into the weave and waft of politics in the human sphere, and coming against all sorts of different enemies of said factions. There's little sneak peeks of combined forces and all sorts of different things in there. So I've no doubt there's going to be some absolutely amazing things happening as part of this one. Carlos was very, very happy, as you might have imagined. He sent many messages saying, look at all these amazing things we've done.
Fantastic.
The initial trailer's looking great. It's from the company Lex+Otis, who have done stuff for Raid, Shadow Legends, Valorant, and some of their cinematics, as well as the Ark animated series. But it comes from the director behind Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, or at least someone who's been involved with that anyway. Justice League and Zack Snyder's Twilight of the Gods as well. So there's a real pedigree behind the team that's looking to bring this to life on the screen for everybody. And I think this is going to be fantastic. It makes sense that Infinity would get a show like this. It's a cool sci-fi world with so much depth and background to it. And if they can do it justice, I think it's going to be quite an exciting time for Corvus Belli and Infinity fans as a whole, really. So
what I liked about it is when we first got the news story, I was kind of, when I heard Infinity is getting a show, I was like, is it going to be an anime? Because that would be the style that I would have imagined Infinity would go.
Yeah.
But when I watched the trailer, I was like, initially I went, oh, it's 3D animation. It's just going to be 3D animation. But the more I looked, I was like, actually, it's taken a lot of inspiration from Arcane.
Yeah.
That sort of painted 3D animation look to it. And that really does suit it quite a lot.
It really does.
Very impressed with that. I did see, I think Carlos had a reaction video. I think they put up a reaction video.
Yeah. It was actually quite touching watching all of the team view it. Yeah. And then seeing them get really excited at the end and being like, yes, and all that kind of thing. Because this must have been going on in the background for so
while.
long
to
this point. And to finally see it coming to fruition is absolutely fantastic. So make sure to watch the trailer. Keep an eye out for more information from San Diego Comic-Con, as I think there's going to be even more announced then. And then Gen Con's just around the corner as well. So if you're looking to get even more fun Infinity news, fun things happening in the future, there's more to come on that front as well. But yes, Paradise Lost looks really cool. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Right.
Fascinating to see where that one goes. Also, they also teased an AI assistant as well.
They did, yes. So you can now go. It's definitely not an Aleph scheme to try and take over everything and all the things we do. Just make sure you don't ask weird questions. But yes, they launched the AI called Sibylla that you can sort of ask questions to, and they will reply with answers about the background of Infinity and all that kind of thing. I asked it about the good guys. What, sorry?
And about the game and its rules as well.
Yeah.
Which is what Lloyd has been banging on about for years now. He wants an Alexa to teach him how to play because he doesn't want to read a rule book. So he just wants to be able to go.
Doesn't want friends to tell him either.
How far can I move? And then just goes, you can move 6 inches. Okay.
I can't wait for Lloyd's turns to take. Actually, no, they already probably take on time anyway.
Yeah, no, they take forever.
As he waits for the replies. But no, I asked it about like the good guys of the Infinity World, and it gave me a nuanced answer, and the same for like the recent conflicts on Paradiso and stuff like that. So it's definitely got some depth to it, and could be fun, obviously, with the new animated show being out for people to have a nice portal into the world of Infinity. Of course, come to the Game Hub on OnTableTop and watch all of our videos from the many, many, many themed weeks we've done.
that is true.
And find your information there. So,
Well, moving away from sci-fi and into the wonderful world of fantasy at a bigger scale with Conquest and Parabellum, they have just launched some pre-orders for a range of new Dweghom bits and pieces. So if you're a fan of I was going to say standard ones, but they're still enormous because it's Conquest. It's like 35 mil. These guys are beasts.
They crush a space marine in their thighs.
They're really good. Even one of those bigger Primaris types. But there's a new character, a new jewel kit, and a massive monster to boot as well. So first up is the new tempered steel shaper, who is a wizard for the Dweghom. So he has a host of abilities that allows him to rain down fire and horribleness on the battlefield, including interfering with how opponent units can activate and play around them. He also has a cheeky little ability called Magnetic Conduit, which the unit also has that we're going to be looking at in a second, and they can spend tokens in game to buff their attacks up, which is cheeky to say the least. I will throw that one out there, but we'll have a look at those in a moment. Before that is the massive stone-forged golem. As you can see, he's got a dwarf on his back. It's like a throne. Bigulate. There we go. Look at that thing coming towards you. You'll know all about it. He's just pointing out to his dad there, that's the one, Dad. He took my lunch money. And then massive Dad Golem is about to rain down punches upon them, which I'm fairly certain is exactly how that works. He's also a magnetic conduit, which again means they can spend the potency markers to get +1 to its attacks, and also buff the ability to take objectives. Now, he's not really going to need to worry about taking objectives so much, because he'll be spending much more time absolutely lamping leather out of everyone, because he comes with 10 attacks as standard, and he can also do a little dance on people's heads because he has impact. So he's a big, brutal puncher with a decent cleave to get through armor and a bag of wounds. 20 wounds. People who want to remove him are going to be there for a long, long time. Now, if they do want to try and chip damage, because that's the worst, is people firing out archers and just doing little plinks on you as you try and walk towards them, and they just back up and plink, back up and plink. He's actually got unstable alloys. So anytime he's targeted by a volley from archers, he counts as having hardened 2. So he buffs his defense against archery, which should make it even harder for spellcasters and archers to remove him from the table. So that'll be infuriating for your opponents. The only way to deal with him is just slam into him with something massive, or tie him up with a tar pit unit that you don't care about, which is also a good way to deal with anything that you don't want to face on the battlefield. Just don't face it. Then we have the new dual kit, so plastic Berserkers, and the alternative version, the Magma Forged. These are
Cool.
A fascinating set of figures. As you can see, rippling muscles and massive lava axes everywhere. Once again, drawing on the elemental fury that lives within the heart of every little tiny Dweghom, because like most small people, they're feisty, very feisty. And again, another dual unit that you can build. So depending on whether you fancy something that's got a bit of punch behind it, so you go for the Magma Forged, big chunky cleave to get through armor, a lot of impact hits on the way in, and fearsome. And they also have that same unstable alloy, so people aren't going to be able to shoot them off particularly easily. So that's a good way to do it. But the Berserkers are a delightful bunch of fellows, shall we say. As you just go to, you have to deal with all the attacks coming your way. And when you finally hit them and kill them, Aura of Death means that they all get to chuck out extra attacks back at you for having chopped them down. So if you're looking to remove these units from the tabletop, it's going to take some time, and you're going to have to either have to sacrifice units to do so, or accept the fact that it's going to be a painful way of removing them. So, as always, dwarves are filth in every fantasy game. I'm just saying, that's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, then, something that's not filthy and a bit more historically based.
Yes. So this one comes from a couple of designers, one designer and like a small group of creatives. So it comes from Frank Sultano, who has been working on a fun game that is going to be coming to Kickstarter later this year called Blood on the Sands. So Blood on the Sands is a gladiatorial game where two players will duke it out on the sands of the arena. You'll get to choose between 1 and 6 different styles of gladiator. And the mechanic for the game is based around rolling dice, which then tell you what kind of actions you can do. So how many moves you can do, attacks, defenses, and all that kind of different thing. You'll have like a sheet as well alongside you when you're playing the game, which will dictate where you can sort of mark off damage and fatigue, and also the favor and disfavor that you have with the crowd during particular bouts. So one of the cool things about the game is that you have to kind of balance your aggression against your fatigue and sort of being worn down over time. Because obviously, the more aggressive you are, the more the crowd's going to love you, and the more boons and things you're going to get from that. But then on the drop side, on the other side of things, the more you push yourself, the tighter you're going to get, which means that your opponent might be able to just like stick a dagger into your leg and bring you down when you least expect it, and put you out of the fight. The game's been developed over a number of years now by Frank and the team, and they've showed it off at conventions and all sorts of different things across Australia, I think it is. And they've already been working on loads of bits and pieces. You can download a set of quick start rules, or sort of the basic rules as they are at the moment, from their Facebook group. So you can go and check it out, and once you join that, you can get your hands on the rules and start playing it and see what you think of it. But as I say, they're going to be sort of aiming to come to Kickstarter later this year and hopefully make this game more widely available to more people. And obviously, Gladiator miniatures, you can find them all over the place. So once you've got the rules, you could sit down and use whatever you've got to start fighting out some battles on the tabletop. And yep, you'll play it on a hex grid and all that kind of good stuff. And sounds pretty awesome to me. There's even a project on our system which shows off a little bit more about the game, which I think is really cool. So yeah,
there is. It's one that I've been following on and off for a while now, since they started building it up and producing it. It was a long time before I realized that they were actually planning on publishing it, because it just, it was one of these projects where you go, oh, come up with a really interesting little game there. And then it turns out that the really interesting little game was going to become something much, much greater. I also really like the fact that it's on a hex grid. When you couple that with the character cards, it's like gladiatorial battle tech.
It is.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Yeah.
100% on board for that.
I expend my heat through sweat.
I've got, That's what your fatigue is.
You don't need a sweating phase. Thank you very much.
You don't want to get overly fatigued. Just that, you have to power down for a minute and catch your breath. Just like a Baltic. So yeah, cracking stuff. Can't wait to see where that goes. And I really like just the project as well, because I'm like for projects. An absolute delightful person. But yeah, some great stuff in there, and the Facebook group is linked in the both the article and the project as well. So if people are interested in finding out more about gladiators, which do not go on a first whistle, apparently, because they did not have whistles in the room at the time, which is a terrible, terrible shame, I feel. But yeah, you can do that.
One, though.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Really, it's nice to see a member of the community who's been working on something in the background, pushing forward and looking to bring it to a wider audience. So more power to him. Well done, Frank. Take a look at that, folks. Now, Victrix. Victrix have recently released their medieval Kniggets, mounted on horses, which is a nice little set. I know this because I got it. And there'll be an unboxing of that coming soon, because I needed to find out what it was like. They've just previewed the Footnight version. So these will be coming in not too distant future. They are mid-medieval, shall we say. 13th century-ish. So perfect for Baron War and that sort of thing. And they come with all the relevant arms, equipment, and helmetry that you may need if you plan on going on a crusade or defending your country from the unchecked aggression of the English, the Scots, the French, Germans, the Italians, delete as applicable. They all got involved in a big way. And there's some really nice detail in these, once again, from Victrix. So figures themselves are going to be 28 mil. I knew some people were asking when I looked at the Baron War Plastics Wargames Atlantic, how they marry up. These are on the larger side. So they will mix. They will be noticeably larger. However, anybody who's seen Ivanhoe, the BBC classic, will know that people like Frank Deboeuf was absolutely enormous compared to, De Courcy and some of the other knights that were kicking around. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. Although if it is so extravagantly different, you will find out, because I'll pop a model in the next unboxing so people can see the size scale difference.
Good idea.
I thought so. I'm good like that, because I always measure them anyway, but sometimes measuring doesn't always tell the story, because you can get very long, tall, thin things. Perry miniatures, for example, are much bigger, but because they seem to have been stretched compared to some other manufacturers. So sometimes they'll mix, sometimes they won't. But as you can see, really nice set of figures, and with a selection of helmetry that lets you sort of go from the conical and round helms of the early / mid 12th century through to the 13th, when you've got the sort of the steel helms and the great helms sort of coming in there as well. So interesting set of figures, really nicely designed as well. And I like, obviously, the crusading look, because it's always nice to show off that God is on your side after you've lopped somebody's head off by inverting your sword and using it like a cross.
He was an infidel, I promise.
That one in particular, maybe not that head, because that looks like a very Caucasian style head. However,
very tired Jerry.
That helmet and that pose would work equally well for the Reconquista, the Crusades in the Iberian Peninsula, to take it back from the Moors. Right. Obviously, I suppose it could be some sort of Arab or a Berber friend coming in to help. Obviously, that's an absolute brutal sword as well, which I really appreciate. And if anybody's been watching, I think it was Scholar Gladiatorium recently, he did a whole thing on flanged maces. and their use as a backup weapon.
There you go.
Yeah, so if you're wondering about the masonry, there's some interesting bits and pieces about that and how they work. But yeah, cracking stuff. And I imagine a big bag full of miniatures will be on their way as well whenever it comes round to being released. So they all look particularly cracking, which is great. And they're also going to be accompanied by a range of transfers from Little Big Man Studios, which, if people are unaware, that's some Little Big Man Studio transfers for Victrix. So full color, I was going to say waterslide decals. Technically they are, but they're applied a little differently.
Right.
That's the Templar set for the caparisons on the horses. So each horse obviously has a set of things. So specific, depending on whether the horse curtains are draped or rippling backwards. There's more or less flange in it. And they're all labeled by horse as well. If people are planning on picking them up, which is good because, you know, when you're putting together a set of horses, where's my current one that I'm working on? When you're putting together a set of horses where the coats, the caparisons are either more pulled and straight or more crinkled and buckled up, then one size does not fit all the time. So it takes a bit of the heavy lifting out of getting them on there. I've not done it yet though, because Little Big Man Studio transfers stick first. They have an adhesive front. So you peel off the plastic, stick them, and then water to remove the backing. So it works.
It's a bit
arse about face compared to a regular water slide where you remove it from the backing and then slide it on. So I don't know if there'll be issues attaching that to a very curved surface, but these seem to be relatively good. Well, people will find out as soon as I get these done and do the video, and then we upload the video and we publish the video. So I'm not sure when that's going to happen. It's a few weeks away, I will say that. But the mounted knights are already available, and the foot knights will be accompanying them soon. And with they've got enough generic Dark Age peasantry kicking around that you can kind of half-ass some levy for them already. But I imagine we'll see sergeants and levy as well at some point from Victrix. I'd be very surprised if we didn't. Yes. So anyway, corking stuff.
Indeed.
Next up, our second mention of Xenophon on this show.
So some new pre-orders and some teasers for the world of dystopian wars and the dystopian age, this time focused around the Enlightened, who get themselves a new Battlefleet set. This one, as you pointed out, Jerry, is the Xenophon, and it's a fantastic new option for the Enlightened to drop into their games. If you like beaming things, this has things to beam stuff. And there are many flavors of beam for you to choose from. It's also, very handily, one of these very nice ambushing craft that can sneak around behind and sort of burst out of the water and attack from range, which is always cool. Look at those lovely torpedo bays on the front. Num, 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 num. And those little swiveling lasers. God, I love those. They're so sci-fi. It's amazing. But anyway, yes, now I've stopped gushing. The middle vessel is the Xenophon, as you can see there, and it comes as part of a new Battlefleet set. The Xenophon can also be built as two other variants. So you have that one, but you also have the Low and the Kepler. Each come with various weapon options for you to choose from. So depending on what kind of enemy you're going to be coming up against. In the storyline for this one, it was against one of the Alliance vessels. You've got some nice options there, as you can see. Going to be really nice seeing what people do with the paint schemes in these. I love that sort of sleek look to them, and then getting all that rivet detail in there is going to be lovely jubbly. So a very nice little set there for you to choose from. Obviously, the resin kit mixed in with the plastic elements for the guns and such, as you can see. In addition to that, as part of the set, you also get two of the Lovelace, which can also be built as the Stiletto, the Copernicus, the Ulysses, the Châtelet, or the Antarctic. Man, I said Châtelet well. Yeah. And then there's also 6 of the Ammo, which can also be built as the Merian. So you've got some nice options there as well on that front. In addition to the Xenophon Battlefleet set, Warcradle are also releasing a set of dice that are now separate from the starter sets. So if you're looking to get your hands on some more because you need to blow more stuff up, and you've got that option, they also obviously come with the damage dice when you get hit and sustain critical damage and things like that. So if you already have a bunch of these and you just want some more extra ones, you can use the critical dice to mark what's happened to your ships as well if you prefer, rather than using tokens and things, which I think is a nice little bonus there as well. So yeah, a little tiny amuse-bouche of a pre-order there for you to choose from on the Dystopian Wars front before the big thing lands soon, possibly. Yes, it's happening.
The big small thing.
The big small thing. Keep an eye out for that one.
Oh, you terrible tease.
Oh,
you are awful, but I like you.
Some mothers do have them.
Speaking of things that are upcoming, John.
Yeah, so we've got another intelligence report out of Warlord Games, talking more about Bolt Action 3rd Edition, and this time we're getting a look at how shooting and weapons are going to work. I say weapons, there's mostly just talk about machine guns at the minute.
Yes.
Small arms.
Machine guns are a big part of infantry versus infantry, or that sort of thing. But we're looking at how the shooting phase is being not necessarily not really reworked. It's just sort of been streamlined a little bit more. So how to hit and all that sort of stuff, and how the shooting phase works. The hit modifiers table is quite nice. I mean, this is just the basic outline of how the shooting works now, or is going to work.
Yeah.
I like the hit modifiers table now because we've got a very simple, everything's a 4+ except your modifiers, which I like that a lot. So you're not worrying. That's where your veterancy is going to come in to make you better or whatever, better or worse at shooting. If you're a Soviet conscript, for example, you're probably on a -2 on that. But I like the firing on the move. I think it's good that they've included that in there. Pin markers are obviously still there as a very important mechanic to it as well. And point blank range, if you're that close shooting a gun, you best not be missing at point blank, or there's something incredibly wrong.
Yeah, your gun just jammed. That's what happened.
Yeah, you foobarred somehow and shot your own foot.
Well, the most interesting thing for me is the move away from quality of troop. So you almost were guaranteed that you would see 90% of what your opponent was feeling would be veteran, if possible, because you were only ever hitting them on a 5+ standard before modifiers. Now, because everybody's on a 4 and it's just the shooters' inexperience you need to worry about, all of a sudden it means regular troops are a much better point per return, if you will.
A threat. Yeah.
They're a threat. You don't have to worry about them being shot off the board. You don't have to worry about them being ineffective compared to veterans. Because there's no buff for veterans here, bar their morale, presumably. Shooting wise, veteran and regular are going to be the same. So yeah, more regulars on the table should mean more infantry as viable, rather than just small elite units running about the place. Doing which it really it either from 2nd edition experience from me, it was either the small elite groups or it was conscript forces that would just drown you in SMG shot. They'd get up close and personal and drown you in SMGs. There was no happy medium.
No,
one or
not
t'other.
at all.
Also,
we've also got the
it looks like the 3+ Marine armor save has gone away. So that's going to be fascinating.
The addition of the cover save now properly into games, which is interesting.
I think cover should always be a very important mechanic, particularly in a historical game, particularly when you're talking World War II, because you're going to be like your infantry tactics of the time would have been moving from point to point, and those points would have been whatever piece of cover was available to you. That would have been your whole firing movement.
Yeah,
it works the same as it does in Modern Warfare. You're moving from point A to point B, but point A and point B are pieces of cover. You're never going to lie flat in an open field.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, if you do choose to go down in a hedgerow, you've still got the big armor save. I say armor save. You've got the save that infantry had before the 3+, and if you're hiding behind a wall or in a building and choose to go down, then that becomes even better, which means infantry in good hard cover are going to be difficult to shift, which is why flamethrowers exist, I suppose.
Especially because a lot of the other rules for like small teams and things like that have gone. Yep. So there's more focus on, really making a statement of cover. I think the other thing that they talked about in the article is the lethality that comes out of it. I mean, we mentioned that if you're caught in the open, you are going to get gunned down unless you go down, of course.
Yeah, that's it.
But they've really changed up the amount of damage that's going to be dealt out to you if you're in the open versus in cover. And also, the other thing they were talking about is that with that addition of the cover save as an actual portion of the shooting procedure, you get the shoot, wound, cover save, but they're also going to put in stuff for people who want to do the shoot, cover, wound, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's going to be alternative rules for either way you want to do it in the book, which I'm sure will aggravate some people, but you can't have the best of both worlds. This does seem, as you say, John, a good way of streamlining things. So.
I think it makes sense to me that you take it as the bullet in flight, so the bullet is heading to you, but the cover is the intervening piece, which is when you roll your cover, and then whatever gets through from that is your wounds. So
you can always do it that way.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think they said statistically it's not a huge difference.
No.
Although I'm not going to sit down and work that out because I hate math.
Leave maths to other people.
Yeah.
Yep. So they also were talking about machine gun teams. Stuff like that.
The small team has gone the way of the dodo.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. Doesn't really bother me because again that just more plays into the cover mechanic more than anything. But the medium machine guns getting an extra shot, but being hard was it harder to hit stuff when mounted on a vehicle or something like that?
So
half dice.
So it's half dice. So I think you've got 6 shots out of an MMG or something like that. If you're on the ground, if you're sort of mounted or somewhere. But if it's on the back, but then suddenly if you get in the back of a vehicle and you're driving around all over the place, suddenly it's not like Mad Max or something.
No.
Your shots are halved because it's hard to aim a gun from the back of a vehicle, which makes sense and means that they fulfill more of a role of a suppressive weapon than just a killing weapon.
I mean,
you're not likely to do as much damage, but maybe suppress and throw some more pins on.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you take it from the perspective of the gun on the vehicle is still firing the same amount of shots, but you're only rolling the shots that are getting close to the target because you're buffeting around all the place. I have fired a machine gun from a half track. I know what that's like. Less said about that, the better.
Don't worry.
But no, it all sounds like really cool changes to bolt action. I know that they've obviously we've looked at things like the force organization and things like that, but I think the focus on infantry and then making infantry more viable through the use of cover, through the making it simpler and easier to shoot and all that kind of thing as well, and that process, I think it's all coming together to create quite an interesting new addition to the game. I'm not looking like a vast departure, but one that's an interesting one. So
I'm looking now towards what they do with the likes of high explosive HE mortar rounds and HE fired from tank guns, because there's the opportunity to be like, yes, you're in hard cover, but this can go through that, or it reduces the save that you gain from the cover because it's an HE shell coming through a wall at you or something like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see.
I wouldn't want them, obviously I don't want them to overcomplicate it, but something that made having a tank on the field that can fire HE a little more dangerous, rather than just I have a tank and they have a tank and the tanks are shooting at each other. Give us a reason to bring a tank to shoot at the infantry other than its machine guns.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why they can't just very simply stick with something like the armor penetration that they have now, where depending on the size of the blast,
level of cover,
tells you what the penetration is, and obviously the round as well. So the smaller rounds might -1 off your cover save, and then the larger rounds might just 3 or 4 it, in which case you're not getting anything at all if it's a particularly big blast landing right on you. Although if it is that big a blast, where's it come from? Artillery from offboard, you say? Oh, Lord. It's going to be a terrible thing. Yeah, fascinating to see how it goes. And I'm with you, John. I think cover saves should come before wins, because it all comes down to...
So you'll be playing the alternative version listed in the optional rules.
The correct version.
Don't think the correct version. Don't think of it as alternative. Think of it as correct. Because once you've been shot, there's no point in pushing the bullet back out and into the wall. That's not how that's not how physics works. That's not how anything works. But yeah,
not at all.
Fascinating to see what else comes down the line from Walad about bolt action as well.
Many weeks of news still to come. So
that's true. We're not even into August yet, and
no,
yeah.
Tell me about tanks and HE.
I mean, it's bound to be coming. It can't be far away. I say that, but almost undoubtedly they'll do morale next, just out of badness, just to complete the infantry section sort of thing. You know, here's how you build your list. Here's how shooting works. Now here's how morale works. And move on with your lives. We'll do some armor later. Right. Speaking of armor, there's a whole host of it with the new Imperial agents, Johnny boy.
There is. That was an odd segue, but sure. So Codex Imperial Agents was announced by Games Workshop, and this, Shay and I both agreed, was a little bit out of left field, because it's the Inquisition really isn't something that gets a lot of screen time unless you're looking at the novels and short stories and stuff like that. But then they've decided we're just going to do a Codex on it, so okay, why not? Fine. Obviously, on this image, we have the highly already memed new version of Cotiez.
He's in the wrong trousers.
He's in the wrong trousers, Gromit. It's, I'm not sure how I feel about the model. I kind of like it, but it also kind of feels like they took one of the old Stormcast Eternals and just went a little bit with him. I don't really care, because he's not a Space Marine anyway. This is a custom piece of armor that Inquisitors can get to wear, so it's being made and tailored to them. But at the same time, the old Cotiez, there was just something very imperious about him with the eagle on the...
Him?
Yeah.
But they've done the same thing. Well, I say they've done the same thing. Eisenhorn went from being an old, bald man, an Inquisitor, to being a young, hair-suited gent. And likewise, they've gone, oh, nobody wants to see old Cotiez. What if we give him hair?
Give him hair and got rid of his wrinkles.
Give him a rejuve treatment.
Juvenile.
Somebody described him. Somebody in our comments described him as Wayne Rooney, presumably after Wayne Rooney had the hair transplant from his butt. So he ended up with a full head of hair again. And I can't
done
unsee
in
that.
Greece? Is that where they do that?
Yeah, Greece or Turkey. Yeah. Just get out there and get your butt hair planted on the top of your noggin, and you're good to go. He doesn't look right. But anyway. So
overall, I think Cotiez has been received as a bit of a miss. But whatever. It's the box contents that we want to see. I think they start to hint towards what the Codex is going to be all about, because we're getting Ordo Malleus, obviously with Fat Boy himself, and a bunch of Grey Knights and all sorts of little bits and bobs. I like that, because the Inquisitors should never be leading an army. It should always be a task force.
Yep.
And a task force with some Grey Knights in there. That's great. Again, I'm going to hammer it home, because I've said it before. This should have been the year of the Terminator. This should have been the edition of the Terminator, where we got new Terminator models throughout. And we didn't. Woo. So now we get the wee stumpy boys.
She and them are from one of the Blackstone Fortress expansions, are they? I've seen her, and I've definitely seen him before.
The one with the flaming chainsword is one of the Sororitas.
Blackstone Fortress. Yeah.
Yes. That one definitely Blackstone Fortress, and I'm fairly certain because this and this squad are the same. Right, okay.
Kill Team, Ashes of Faith was where they first came out.
Yep.
And then they're available separately as a kill team. It's an inquisitorial kill team with no Inquisitor in it.
That's all right. He's in the middle.
Oh yeah. I forgot about him.
It's inquisitorial.
I've tried to block him out.
It's like
we're forgetting about him.
Forget about the biggest, shiniest man in the show. Wayne
So
Rooney.
beyond the Ordo Malleus and the Fat Controller, we also have the we also have the Ordo Xenos.
Yes.
Which again, these are all models we've seen before. In fact, some of them were in the previous box as well, just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
But we also get some of those forgotten Space Marines that no one cares about.
Yeah.
Death Watch, baby.
Death Watch, that's it.
Yeah. Corvus
See,
Black
I
Star,
can't-
baby.
I mean, the Black Star is a nice enough looking ship. I'd rather take a Valkyrie any day, but again, we have some obviously Kill Team and what looks like some Blackstone as models in there.
Well,
as
there's Spirit
again.
Level Head, who I've
Oh,
always
yeah, so
liked
That's your,
for putting up my
that's your
shelves.
Imperial Navigator.
Yeah, sure.
And then there's the Kill Team. And then the one at the back is the Rogue Trader Kill Team.
Yes.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
So we have the Malleus, the Xenos, and then we have the last one,
That's what
the
counts.
Hereticus. It's basically what a Sisters task force should look like.
Yeah.
Honestly, that Greyfax in there.
It is Greyfax. Yeah.
I missed out on Greyfax. She's not. I can't
You
get
got
her.
Cotiez, Draxus, and Greyfax across the 3 sets, which is cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Greyfax is the perfect mix for being put in with some Sisters anyway. So there's not much else I can say about that. But this
Backed
to
up
me,
by-
and Shay
Or bite edge.
Shay's actually quite interested in this as well, because he's kind of like, this is how Sisters should deploy. There should be an inquisitorial agent or something along with them. It's not just them running around going, you have a holy scroll that belongs to us. Let's go burn that planet for a while. Not that that's going to stop them anyway, but with inquisitorial backing, it helps.
Yeah.
They bring extra fuel for the marshmallows.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting.
interesting, because there was talk that there wasn't going to be any coverage of the Inquisition in 10th edition. And we were starting to see a sort of lack of diversity is really the only word, a lack of mixing things up a little bit with the factions.
Well, yeah. If
I think
every
you
Sisters
mentioned
force
on
was just a pure nunnery, you weren't getting any of the... And I mean, even from the original Sisters Battle Codex, there was always the Fraterish Militia, the pilgrims who came along, or the Inquisitors, or the preachers and confessors and priesthood. They were always part and parcel of it. And then it's like they released the most recent Sisters and was like, yeah, we don't want any of that. Oh, no, please we do. Put it back in.
The thing I think that's quite nice from the teaser that we got in terms of rules for this is that you can just play an entirely Imperial Agents army if you want to, which is just made up of, naval boarding crews, rogue traders, whatever you want to do. Everything just from that book, essentially. But then they've also put in a thing where, depending on the size of army that you're playing, so say you're at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, heaven forbid, you get an allocation of units that you can take in terms of characters, units, and that kind of stuff. So if you want to, and as long as you're Imperium, you can take them. So if you wanted to do Astra Militarum with a Death Watch kill team and an Inquisitor, you can do that. If you wanted to do Space Marines and you wanted to go all Death Watch, then you could take the Death Watch kill teams from the Inquisitorial Agents book and then just add on Primaris Space Marines, just paint them black and put the appropriate shoulder pads on effectively. And away you go. So it's going more towards, I think, what we described in was it XLBS, where we were like, Imperial armies should be mixed. They should be this interesting, diverse range of rogue traders, Sororitas, Grey Knights, and all that kind of thing as well. So, besides Cotiez, I think otherwise this is a pretty neat little addition to 40k. Really.
Every model in these 3 boxes that isn't new is fine.
And the one thing it's missing, and everyone has asked for, why on earth do they make endless multi-part farseers, captains, all this kind of thing for different armies? Where's the multi-part make your own Inquisitor plastic kit?
Because it would the problem is it's all friggin' monopose now. Yeah. So they'd have to make 10 build your own Inquisitor models,
I suppose,
with all the different loadouts and stuff like that.
But just like you can choose just a regular Inquisitor in your games. Why not just
buy the Age of Sigmar Witch Hunters, the twin box?
Oh yeah,
because I did that to make a Canon S.
Yeah,
and it was fine.
Because in my head, all I can see
some of those
is the Empire Battle Wizard set from Fantasy years ago, where you got 2 wizards and enough bits to make any of the 8 colleges of magic.
Yeah.
So, and it was very...
They still do that?
Do they? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they still do, yeah. It's definitely going to go, but they still do.
But that shows what they
get
can fit
into the old world.
But it shows what they can fit on a small sprue. So there's no reason why they couldn't have done it witch hunter-wise. A couple of relatively generic inquisitorial armored bodies and then a whole host of heads and weapon options, and off you pop.
It's like the old / current Chaos Space Marine in Terminator armor. The Lord in Terminator armor, you can make him a sorcerer or a Lord or whatever.
Yeah. If we've just a prime opportunity to do that, and they've done something lackluster in Cotiers. Anyway,
again.
Dark Angel, not Dark Angels. Blood Angels next, probably. Blood Angels next.
Bloody vampires. Somebody fetch me a couple of preachers from that Sisters of Battle Force and witch hunters and stakes, and we'll deal with the Blood Angels once and for all.
They also confirmed that Grey Knights will get their own codex next year. Of
course they will.
The Death Watch probably won't. It'll just be this force that they have at the moment. But there we go.
Bar one weapon type, they're not actually different from regular Marines. They're just, here's Marines, here's your gun for today, while you're
pick your own ammunition.
Yeah. Yep. Off you trot with that. The Adeptus Arbites do that with combat shotguns.
They do.
Give me all flaming rounds and acid rounds. Bang. Eat it, Xenos scum. Right. I think it's time to take a look at some 3D printing. All right, we're back and ready to take a look at some ones and zeros. And the ones and zeros for this week are from Wargames Atlantic, Ben.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we often come back and have a little peruse of what they've added. Now, maybe we should do this more often than we do, because there's always far too many to actually go through.
Never
because nobody sleeps, I don't think, in Wargames Atlantic. I think they just keep sculpting.
You know the way they say it's all their stuff is conceived and concepted on both sides of the pond? I think they've actually got somebody over in Asia / Australasia now, so there's always somebody awake and sculpting.
Oh my God.
It's like the sun never set on the British Empire in that regard. Yeah. The sun never sets on Wargames Atlantic and their output.
But yes, we have a wonderful selection of different bits and bobs across different genres and different historical periods. But what I'm wanting to focus on here is a selection of historical sets that are very fitting to the kind of periods that they've been doing in plastic, and a very nice sort of bonus add-ons to what they've already been doing, alongside a little bit of sci-fi and some World War II as well. So we'll start off with the Genoese crossbowmen. So they already started talking about these in little tiny 10 mil. But if you want to get some in grand battle scale, yes. But if you want to get some in 28, they're going to do a new, well, they already do a new multi-part set of these for you to drop into your games and use as mercenaries, be that over in Britain or over in Europe, depending on which way you wanted to go and who you're supporting. Queenie, up the Queen. But anyway, some nice little options there. Really nice selection of different sculpts and stuff. And it's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily, I mean, that looks like a perfect setting for a plastic kit, bar the guys who are sitting down reloading. So maybe that will eventually turn into a plastic kit. We never know. But
this is one of the things Charlie said a long time ago, and Hudson as well, that everything for Atlantic Digital is either an add-on for a plastic set or has the potential to be a plastic set. So in some cases, it may mean that they are sculpting, they're restricting themselves in what they could do in 3D design. Because obviously with 3D, you don't have to worry about sprues and all the rest and undercuts.
No.
But they deliberately work as if they are going to be made in plastic, because then if they decide to make them, or if the people demand such,
it's an easier stepping stone. Yeah,
it's already done. There's just the tooling. And I don't mind the people on the ground reloading, because that's why they've got massive purveyors that you can put your back up against.
Very cool. Yeah. But it's a really nice little set of mercenaries there for you to throw into your games. Very cool indeed.
Yes.
But any game worth its salt needs an objective for you to try and pilfer from the enemy.
Yeah.
And so the second set that I wanted to look at is their ox-drawn cart, or carts, as you can see there, which I think are just waiting to be raided. That is a baggage train in need of a burning at the back of an army somewhere, or assaulted by Robin Hood and his merry men, so they can rob from the rich and give to the poor, maybe, possibly, or keep it all for themselves.
Distribution of wealth. Bloody robbing the communist hood. Now we know why Will. Now we know why Will was Scarlet. Huh? We'll keep the red flag flying. Anyway.
But another really nice little set there that comes with obviously the ox drivers and the ox itself and the cart packed full of goodies. So a really nice little set of additional bits and pieces that can be used to furnish your games of the Baron's War and beyond with objective markers.
There's no way that's not full of money. Look at a massive iron-banded chest. That is 100%. It's robbed.
Yeah.
And people have to do the robbing. There's what I'm after. There's the components.
Oh, lovely jubbly. You can
even
show break up the cart, use it as a wrecked pit as well. So, yeah.
When you print it out and it eventually falls on the floor.
Yes.
it's a broken one,
ruined piece.
Now it becomes part of the scenery. I turn into a barricade to stop the sheriff's men getting into the village. Unfortunately, it's not a walled village, so they just walk around.
Yeah. Oh, just like the French. Anyway, right. We also have something a little bit different in the form of the Egyptian Mameluke cavalry, which I thought were just so cool.
Yes.
I was scrolling through and I was like, cool, more medieval stuff. Oh, that's kind of nice. And then I was like, oh my God, these look cool. And if anyone doesn't know, these were the slave soldier warrior class of Egypt back in the day that could end up fighting for all sorts of different forces, depending on how much you paid their masters.
Obviously, if you're doing any of the Crusades,
full of dynamism and everything. Yeah.
But
these are a glorious set.
Oh, I really like them. I love the tassels. I've got a load of those to paint in 15 mil.
Everyone loves a good tassel
because they are the core of your fort, especially if you're doing the Crusades. I want to do the sort of the flamboyantly expansive one with Saladin and friends. These are the core of your force. And despite being slaves, they were the elite of that army.
Yeah.
Very much like the, who'd you call them? The Unsullied?
Oh, yeah, the Unsullied from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Pretty much where Martin got the idea from. An entire, that literally slaves bought and trained to be the best fighters that they could be.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely spanking gorgeous. And as you can see, their kit was top notch as well. Because when you've got your very own private elite, you want them to be as well equipped as possible. So yeah, they're absolutely spot on. Wonderful. Very good if I happen to put together a load of Victrix medieval knights and then stick Templar stuff all over them and then charge.
Yeah. Sticking with the slightly alternative as well, we also have the Andalusian characters. So this was a set for you to throw into your collection if you wanted to add a new war leader into the mix. So, every war host needs a captain, as they say. But if you're looking to run a pretty interesting mercenary contingent as well, you've also got this option here. So you get the war leader commander on foot and on horseback charging forth across the plains. You should
very dramatic.
You should probably put the fire out underneath the hooves of that horse, I think.
It's just blazing saddles, man.
Just blazing, yes.
Oh, dear.
But then you also get the attendant musician as well, which is really nice. So you've got a foot and mounted version of the musician too. So when he comes into town, he can announce himself.
There was little ass.
Boop-de-boop-de-boop. With a big ass.
Like that.
Yes. So yeah, a really nice selection of bits and pieces there for making your Andalusian characters. But in an entirely different vein, we also had possibly one of my favorite kits that they've announced in the last while. Now, if you're an AT-43 fan and you were missing your lovely space gorillas, I think they may have just found a fun replacement for you. in the Silverbacks. So the story goes in the world of Deathfields that they went back to claim the first ever Zulu warrior, and in the meantime they went, mountains, gorillas. I wonder if we can genetically experiment on them, and they did. So they brought them back to the far future and turned them into the Silverbacks, as you can see here. And they come with lots of different weapon options for you to choose from, lots of big rifles, lots of nice head options, and they've designed it as such that you can make them with or without weapons, so you could have them as a sci-fantasy football team if you wanted, or you could just drop them in as troops in your regular games as well, or just do a bit of a mix and match if you preferred, and unleash them on your enemies. A really nice little set, once again, that I think will go down a treat with people who want to build up fun sci-fi armies. Very cool indeed.
Just take them in place of Ogrins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Want to see my replicants? Whoa.
The Tempestus Scion version of Ogrins as these.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
No reason why you can't. They've let add humans back into the Imperium, apparently.
Yeah.
Because we've started to see, like, there was a beastman at one point in Blackstone, wasn't there? So, no reason why you can't have a massive knuckle dragon. Big hairy apes coming at you, like Cleopatra. And no sign of Dion Fossey either. So, sure. Good times.
Last two kits, I think would be very appealing to you, John. So the first one of these was the US Marines Infantry for the Pacific Theater.
Ooh.
The specific Pacific Theater, with a range of different options for you to choose from on that front, as you can see. Really nice little set, full of details. People who want to go and do combat out on the islands. Wonderful little set full of character, as you can see there once again. I think
this was an interesting one, because in the Atlantic Legion, possibly. Anyway, one of the Facebook groups, either the Atlantic Digital or the Legion fan group, somebody was pointing out the weapon distribution in here and going, you've got too many of those and not enough of these. To which Wargames Atlantic replied, fair enough. We've asked our sculptor to make a few more and stick some more in there. So there was I think there was too many of the grease gun type things, and no shotgun and no something or other. So it confused me, because I thought the whole point of digital was that you get the files and you print out whatever you need. But clearly somebody just wants to hit the play button.
Yeah, so just press more
play and record
and shotguns,
whatever it is. Yeah, I know. But they have said they're going to go back and add, which is nice that audience participation is a thing. When people go, well, maybe if we had more of these, it would make the set more viable for fielding in a historically accurate manner. So we can all appreciate that.
I think my only criticism is they're supposed to be late war Pacific because they've got Garands and grease guns and stuff like that. They're maybe a little too tidy. They're a bit too well dressed for late Pacific.
Right.
I think they should have had a few like sleeveless shirts. Not as many of them wearing their gaiters and stuff like that, because you see a lot of the footage where they just weren't wearing the gaiters. The trousers were just down around their ankles and stuff, down like hanging off their feet and stuff like that, just running around like that, because the Pacific gets kind of warm. And your average doughboy Marine isn't going to be running around full pack, all his kit on, running across the volcanic sands of Iwo Jima, trying to shoot some Japanese. Like that's my only criticism. I'll get an email off Charlie later saying, I need you to cease and desist. I'll be like, okay, are we going to have another game together to prove my point? That's all. Like, they're a great set, but there's not enough that tells me this isn't a European guy. That this isn't European theater. Like, apart from the helmet cover, that's the helmet cover is really the only thing that kind of defines, because that was the time
the
they were largely
specificness of the Pacific.
That's it.
Yeah. There you go. There's terms.
There you go. Well, from the very, very hot to the very cold, there's also a set of World War II Brits in their winter gear. So this is them in their reading from the
notes.
the info. They're windproof suits using Enfields, the Jungle Carbine, and a whole range of other bits and pieces with lots of different heads, and there's Bren guns in there and everything as well. Looks pretty cool. John, what do you think?
I'm not that up on my British gear, to be fair.
How dare you?
They look all right. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that gun is.
Is that the jungle gun? The jungle carbine, maybe?
Quite possibly.
Number 5 jungle carbine?
Could be. Yeah, that could be. I've not seen one. Stan!
Yeah.
Nobody's wearing balaclavas like Pike. I mean, he's got a little head wrap on. But yeah. They not realize it's going to get very cold and they'll get a nasty infection, chest cold.
But yeah, maybe if you're someone who's diving into bolt action and you really like the idea of the whole Battle of the Bulge thing and you want to go down the winter route with other allied forces as well.
Don't know what you're talking about. The British didn't do anything in the Ardennes. Says every history book ever.
Not better, John.
But yeah,
it was Patton clearly that did everything in the Battle of the Bulge. Patton shut them down. Don't forget about the British. Yeah, they didn't do anything.
Wrap up warm and show them who's boss. That's what I say. But yes, that was my little suite of picks from Atlantic Digital at the moment. But there is way more.
I have to say one thing before you close out, though.
Yes.
They're the wrong helmets.
Use the wrong knife.
Helmets? They're the old Tommy helmet. Should they not be the tortoiseshell?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't pay attention.
They should be the tortoiseshell.
Charlie, send another strongly worded message to John.
all my World War II are German.
Well, so you'd have an issue with that then. Yeah,
no, so. I wouldn't be able to tell you whether or not they were correct.
Have you shot them?
I can't see clearly if they're just Tommy helmets, but they should be more tortoise shells.
There's definitely a kink in the helm with the cover over it. So discuss.
Okay. Someone will tell me off. Someone will call me wrong. And I'll be
in the comments. Yeah.
I don't read those. That's fine. I stay away. When I'm involved in the show, I don't read the comments because people call me stupid.
None of us can read. Everything I don't even speak English, actually.
That's why nobody reads the Running Out now.
Learned all of this phonetically. I've even learned this bit phonetically that I'm saying to you now, and this bit as well. But we're ready to round out the show, and we have a triplet of campaigns to finish things off for this week. The first of which is a cornucopia of cardboard from Acid House Terrain. So, Acid House have done some spanking gorgeous foldable terrain that you can stick under your bed. They've done sci-fi. They've done very loud videos that I'm now deaf by. And currently doing a campaign for both a reprint of their Cyberpunk in 28mm and this new 6/8/10mm small scale epic sci-fi terrain. This, I have to say, the thing that really blew me away, and I mentioned this to John the other day, is particularly the overpass. Because when you're playing 28mm, you always want elevation and bits and pieces. It kind of gets forgotten about a little in small scale stuff. You're generally going, here's a lot of like high rise buildings, but you're never really using them. You know, infantry don't often get in the ground floor and take an elevator up to the top. So instead, you tend to play on the ground, but with lots of intervening terrain. Having the potential for layered overpasses just adds more interesting dynamic to your tactics. So as you can see, everything comes in a box, including the playmat / board as well. They come in a variety of flavors. Look at that. Go overpass, go. Able whatever size bottles they are. like 2 liters probably. So the terrain is reversible as far as the board goes. You have on one side the cityscape, on the other side is a delightful green area. So you can have your outskirts, your suburbs, your pastures new. For the Cyberpunk reprint, it's the same on both sides, but one side has got 1-inch grid of dots. So everything's got a little white grid, which means you can, if depending on what you're playing, so if you're playing Dead Zone and you need 3-inch cubes, then this scenery is doable for that as well. So you can pick up either of these, the reprinted Cyberpunk or the epic scale stuff, at different sizes, depending on the games you play. If you play something very small, tight, compact, like Codeblade, for Cyberpunk, for example, you may only just need to pick up the 2-foot, sort of quarter. I think they call them 25% full.
They're volume kits.
They're volume kits. 100% is 4x4. So 4x4 mat plus the terrain to fill that. And then there's a 25% one, which is just a 2x2. And then there's the super size, which brings you up to a 6x4. And as you can see, they've got a whole host of styles for the epic size, all of which are really nicely textured. You'll see that if people want to have a look at the Cyberpunk or the fantasy box that we reviewed in the past, or even the sci-fi one. Sci-fi was the first, very industrial, very good for Infinity, bit grey. The Cyberpunk one and this epic one as well, which is perfect for Bot War. I've got a ton more texture, detail on the actual buildings, where you can see inside some of the glass fronts, and they're much more evocative of the setting, rather than just being a generic, here's a table's worth of 4x4 building. Great. It can all be folded up and then put back in the box after you're done. But being able to move on from that and go, well, here's your 4x4 Cyberpunk board, and it looks like something out of Blade Runner with street lights and signs and neon advertising everywhere and little suicide booths on every corner, which are just the cutest. And likewise here for the epic, they have a couple of different flavors of pack, if you will. So there's a military and urban setup where you've got your outer zone, like a forward observation base or that sort of thing, where you've got generators and warehouses and anti-aircraft and all that sort of good stuff. But the city one is the one that I really like, with those overpasses, the high-rise buildings and all the rest. And they are remarkably durable. So you'll see in the unboxing if you bother to look, and if you don't, I'll just tell you now, the core is a thick corrugated cardboard for rigidity, and then the outside is a thin sort of wax satin finish, detailed print. So you unfold the outer skin and then put the box inside and pop it up, which means I assembled the 6x4 board in about 15 minutes. And it's all color coded. So you just go, I've got the green inserts because there's a big green line across it. And then you find the green outer. And again, there's a big green line. So you just green box into green box and move on with your life. So
and away you go.
And go, which does this fit that? It's, I mean, if you can see the colors, and they're very bright, vibrant, I don't think there's any that will cause issues for people with any sort of color blindness, because they are so jarringly different.
Stand out.
You should be able to go very quickly which one goes with which.
The thing that I quite like, it's like a weird small thing, but it's something that popped up in their description of the different kits. I love that it doesn't have that silly reflection that you sometimes get from plastic mats and cardboard terrain.
Yes.
So you can, as they said in that, take nice, cool pictures without being like, where do I have to stand to avoid the light in my room? Which is really key. I like that. That's a nice little touch.
Yeah, because it's gorgeous. It's a satin. It's a good halfway house between the protection of gloss and the ability not to get snow blindness from the reflection. So that's what you want. I did see somebody questioning the size of the buildings, thinking they were too big compared to the figures. But no, that's like 6 stories tall. And when you see like Baltech troops standing beside it, they're about the right height to walk into any of those floors. It just happens that that's a tower block that maybe 12 stories. So it's all good. Like I say, the epic stuff is cracking. Great for a whole host of games. Obviously, a lot of people are getting into BattleTech these days. Bot Wars 3rd edition's on the way. There's something for 40k as well. The Heresy, I think. I'm not really paying attention. It's a bit sci-fi for the grim dark, but if you're just looking board space, it's good to go. And obviously, Drop Zone Commander is getting a revamp as well. So I imagine people will be on the lookout for things like that. The cyberpunky stuff, if I squibble on down, there you go. You can see some of the contents there. Cyberpunk bits and pieces are, like I say, a neon, lovely world of glowingness. There, look at that. Two level as well on the overpass. I don't know if I mentioned that. I like the fact that you can have your overpass running over an overpass.
Multi-level gaming is the way to go.
Yeah. And then that's when you can be a real so-and-so to your opponent and go, well, you may have put tanks up there, but do you have the declination on that barrel to actually target it in this dead space below you? I don't think you do. And unlike troopers who can go to the edge and lean over, I'm pretty sure your tank isn't going to be leaning over anything, matey boy. So you just suck it up there and die.
You guys went up on a bridge. I don't have to shoot you. I'll just shoot out the supports from the bridge.
Shoot out the
bring the bridge down. So, yeah.
There we go. The cyberpunk urban sprawl. So this, I absolutely adore this for the 28th.
It's lovely.
It's so vibrant, and there are so many little neat touches. This was obviously a picture taken from the first Kickstarter. This glowing neon advertising band that runs around. On the back, it has multiple adverts that are sort of scrolling. But on the front, it has something that says, like, please report to your nearest governmental output center or whatever, and it's listed all the Kickstarter backers as if it's just like a ticker tape running through the middle of town. Which is
neat. I like that.
Yeah. And it's an absolute, I was going to say pointless. It's not pointless. It's a nice touch. It has absolutely no practicality for gameplay or anything like that, but just world building.
Didn't need to be done, but it's a nice touch.
Yeah. Also, they have a really nice, the Jersey barricades there are on one side, it's a nice pristine, it's a scuffed up, dirty Jersey barrier, but it can be folded the other way round and it's been graffitied. And you get a ton of them as well. I think there's in the big box, there's 12 of them.
So you can do like gangland territory.
So you can do gangland, because there's graffiti on bridges and all as well, and the bridges are reversible with little bits and pieces about
very nice.
Please get out. There you go. There's a prime example. Actually looking on the inside, and the insides are actually detailed on the medium-sized buildings on these as well. So when you pull the insert out, you can see inside, and it's like all tiled, and you can see the window facing out. It kind of looks like it's very like Blue. You remember that bit where they go to see the gentleman who he just does eyes? Did your eyes? It's like that. Very stark blue interior, which is great. And I mean, for anybody, side booth, for anybody who's doing sci-fi gaming,
it's prime for Infinity and Codeblade.
Infinity, absolutely bang on for those. For Cyberpunk Red Dead Redemption, whatever it's called, the Monster Fight Club game.
Near enough.
Close. The boss of me, Ray Darcy from Kildare. It's spot on for those as well.
Tower. Human interface.
So space is always at a premium. They are durable enough that I imagine if you're not going to be jumping on things or falling onto your board, that they should stand the test of time quite nicely. And the fact that you can fold up a 6x4, including the mat it plays on, into a box that's probably about 60 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 35.
Yeah.
None of those.
Very nice.
I'm just guessing based on the box I opened the other day. So none of those measurements are.
You can watch the unboxing that Jerry did this week.
I'm 196 centimeters tall. So if you take me and then you work backwards from that, you'll be able to work out the size of the box. I'm glad to have helped. I don't have a banana for scale, so you just have to use me.
Yeah.
Right. So that's Acid House, massively funded already. And there are 26 days left to run on that. Sticking with sci-fi.
I had to put this one in, otherwise I think Jerry would have killed me. Yeah,
I wouldn't have killed you. I just would have deleted all your holidays from the system.
No.
What? Who? Me? Anyway, Westfalia are back with a new campaign and going all science fiction through the medium of Boris Volosin's sculpting. And this is the Dark Object. So, as Cavill was saying to me, this is out of his comfort zone. This is the biggest campaign he's ever done. And the most diverse, I suppose you could call it as well.
I guess, yeah.
Because it's all about industrial sci-fi gaming. So the idea is the Dark Object is something that's arrived. Remember that point in time a few years ago when a massive cigar-shaped asteroid-like thing arrived in the solar system? Yes. And the world went mad for a little while, wondering what this could have been, because it couldn't possibly just be an asteroid floating through space. Similar. Occasionally, some sort of dark object will appear on a scanner, and then people have to go in and deal with it, see what's going on. They send in both Marines and a civilian group to help them out of scientists and engineers and navigators and stuff. Because once you're in there, you may have to deal with stuff. Yep. So to that end, there's a host of humans. Hello, me. Including things like the Marines. These come with 3 head options, actually. One of which is definitely human, one of which is possibly human, and one of which is ex-human, because you've got the bare face, you've got the visor, and I know it says 2 head variants there, but there was a third one on the prototypes they sent me, which is a dead/maniac skulled human. Okay. So, if you want to do your creeping dead/possessed on a ship in the middle of nowhere, then you can do that. As you can see, they come with a variety of SMGs, pistols, captain with huge chainsaw. Sing that song again if you want, Ben. Marine with a shotgun. And then my favorite in here, weirdly not Lovecraft. I love Lovecraft. I love the sculpt of Lovecraft. Really good. Good engineer, somebody to bring on board, do the science, go on, poke him with a stick, see whether or not the void's going to open and swallow us all. But it's got to be Engineer Pope. I love him. Smoking a tab. He's great. Oh, I cannot wait to get my hands on this. Ignore that. So humans can also be aided by things like androids, whether it's Ziggy, who looks human and is, like a calculator, like a data type thing, and also people like the Abomination and Gunface, which are not right. And at that point, I'm going, oh yeah, Boris is still here. He's still in there doing the thing. And then there are the aliens, of which these are weird as shit. I mean, this creepy thing floating around with its tiny little vestigial legs that it doesn't use anymore because it spends all its time being floated by whatever this bionic monstrosity is that's plugged straight into its back. Or Furio, the massive alien ravager who's more teeth than man. And there's
what they did there. Kako Demon. Demon. Ha 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 ha.
And the Kokori, who are so cute. Look how cute they are. Yeah. The big one controls the little ones. And there's also things like
so
Apex.
Weird.
Apex Predator with blades. There's another one who doesn't have blades. He's got a massive spear, who may be unlocked during the course of the campaign. Might already be. And then my favorite, the hazmat suits are just gorgeous. They're like a Russian egg industrial sci-fi film from like the 70s. In space, this is what we'll be wearing, some sort of...
They're just missing a little tiny head and they'd be from Fifth Element.
Yeah, just on top. But these are little portals, and then that's a big vision portal at the front, and there's another one on the other side. So you just move around freely inside your diving bell space egg suit.
Makes sense.
Like Mork from Orc. So yeah, Great sculpts once again. Oh, he's not been unlocked yet. The Apex with Spear.
Make another pledge, Jerry.
for fans of Canadian lager, Molson and Labatt, the pilots / dock workers. It's all good. And then the Spaghetti Men. I've gone wrong. I think Mr. Lovecraft scientist needs to stop reading any text he finds. Just because you can read it, Lovecraft, doesn't mean you should. And then that way they may not be exploding out of their suits like this, which is all horrible. Accompanying it are a set of rules, though. So this is an interesting set. Dan Mersey wrote a set for fantasy years ago called Strongsword, which I have. And it's got an interesting concept where you choose a style of action for your force in a turn. So you would like go offensive or go defensive or go balanced.
Okay.
And depending on what you do, gives you options to certain actions, or some actions are locked out completely if you don't choose the right sort of style. So if you want to be aggressive and proactive, then you have to go with like a more aggressive stance, a tactic for your team. Now this has been reworked for the sci-fi variant. See, look at those little portals. So you've got gambits now, they're called, and your gambit will tell you what activations you have when you're playing. So you can see here, if you choose to fall back, then here are the things that kick in from that. So any friendlies can move, but you can't shoot. You can't attempt engineering tasks, but you can get modifiers to help you or to, hinder your opponent as you attempt to escape, because the game's played with sort of half a dozen models against whatever. So the apex predators are like 2 models. There's 2 massive apex predators, aliens hunting you through a ship. Therefore, you have to try and work out your best way to get through there. So I haven't had a chance to read through the rules totally yet. Obviously, I'm semi-familiar with them from the previous iteration. Yeah. So it's a nice dynamic way of working out what you need to do. What order should your captain / sergeant be screaming into the comms? Should it be run away, or should he be, a bit more proactive and balanced and, get in a position where obviously balanced is good because some people can do the movings and the searchings and some people can do the firings and recovery and whatever else it happens to be, or occasionally just prime that chainsaw, scream rush, and then just start chopping into all the Keiko demons you can. There we go. There he is again. So yeah, you can download the beta of the rules from the campaign itself. There's some more bits and pieces. Obviously, there are add-ons aplenty. You can pick bits and pieces up separately. There's also, for ones and zero fans, STL files. So that corridored ship that they were moving through, please God, let them unlock that. You can, for the first time in one of these campaigns, get your hands on some 3D files that are made up of specific sort of, modular components that you can then build your ship with, whatever you happen to be building towards, whether that's doing some sort of Space Hulk style layout where you want your 5x5 rooms and your 3x3 rooms and your 2x4 corridors or whatever it happens to be. You can build up any way, shape or form you want, including all the walls, doors and bits and pieces to dress the area as well. So objectives can be dropped in. And there will also even be a little egg hazmat suit in the ones and zeros as well. They're so cute. I want to paint them all like Easter eggs in a variety of color, like the old school, like super.
I've just realized that if you look at them in a certain way, it looks like 2 eyes and a massive screaming mouth.
Yeah, could be that as well. You win the Boris Award for spotting weird faces and stuff in a drawing or animation. They've even got like mittens. Look at his big mittens. So yeah, really excited by this. Ignore that. I've bought everything. None of us are surprised, are we? No. There's even some little sample rooms if you want to give it a go. So even if you don't plan on playing the Dark Object as it is, if you're just looking for something to run your Xenos Rampant or your Space Crusade or Stargrave, Core Space, whatever it happens to be. If you're looking for a set of industrial style corridors to run down, maybe you've picked up the Gale Force 9 Alien game and you're looking for a whole host of tight corridors to be butchered in, horribly butchered in, then this is a good way to do it. Already funded, only 8 days left. You absolute legend, you. So you should get on that one like a hairy, scary bear, because I want the big gribbly thing, and it's not unlocked yet.
I had to put it in so Jerry gets more stuff. That's it, yeah.
Oh, Jesus, please don't.
Yeah.
They won't leave me my money. Show me something I don't want, Ben. Please.
So going from, ending on ones and zeros and 3D printing with that last project, we go into the next project, which comes from the folks at Daka Store. Once again, they're back on Kickstarter, although this is their sort of sister group creative sect called Daka Fantasy, and they have been working on Grimworld Battle for Underholme. That was my take on a dwarven accent.
Oh, look, dwarves.
Yeah. Haha! Yes. So this is 150 plus STL files for you to use as dwarves in your armies on the tabletop, alongside rules. Yes, rules. Terrain, dice, and everything else you need to start playing the game in the battle for Underholme. So just to get the rules thing out of the way to begin with, it uses the one-page rules Age of Fantasy system, but they've bolted on some sort of specific Daka Fantasy elements here and there alongside the core rules, so you can play out games using their miniatures and having some fun in that regard. But on the miniature side of things, you've got two armies to choose from. So you can either go down the route of the Steel Hill Dwarves, who are your classic dwarves, clad in their mighty heavy armor with big cloaks and pipes to smoke and wonderful winged helms and everything else between. And on the other side of things, you have the Voidland Dwarves, and they're the bad dwarves. They're the Chaos Dwarves. They're the ones that you don't hang about with. They're the ones that your mum tells you not to go out with after school to the park. Don't go with them. They're berserkers. So yes, you can choose between the Steel Hill Dwarves and the Voidland Dwarves. On the Steel Hill side of things, you've got a couple of different options for both your warriors. You can have them with double-handed weapons or hammer weapons and shields. You've also then got riflemen and flamethrowers, and you can get them as pre-built kits, as it were. So you just print them off as you see them there, or you can get them as a multi-part kit, so you can print off the different components and then build them up as you see fit. On the other side of things, you also have the Voidland Dwarves, who come with their bits and pieces kit, which can be used to assemble them with Voidland berserkers and shooters, so you can do their core infantry as well. There's also cannons to the left of them and to the right of them, and also a bunch of awesome elite stuff for the Voidland Dwarves as well, so they have access to their bull centaurs. So if you want to charge in and cut everyone up with cavalry in a dwarf army, dirty.
Abyssal half-breed, you say?
Oh, God. There. Yes, Kings of War armies. But yes, you've got some nice stuff there on that front. And then, as is the case with a lot of the stuff they've been doing recently, they've also been doing a section of hero kits. So you've got one for the Steel Hill and one for the Voidland, and also the Steel Hill Runesmith as well. So you get those printed off, and you've got some leaders for your forces. So effectively, you've got an entire wargame in one project, more or less. You can dive in, get both armies, both flavors of dwarves. You can get the rules, you can print it all off, and just dive in and start playing. If you enjoy the likes of Age of Fantasy, then you obviously can use that as a basis for your games, or you could obviously take them off into other games and do what you will with them, as it were. There's also a free model you can download and test print if you prefer, and then obviously here is their little tiny rules sheet as well. You're going to need the Age of Fantasy rules as well, so keep them alongside you.
Free download anyway.
Yeah.
So
yes, so that's free, and then you just add the Grimworld mode in, and away you go. And you can start playing with the armies and everything you could just print off at home, which I think is really cool. The only thing you need is dice. Don't print your dice. They'll probably be weird and squiffy. Or do.
Oh, they're much better to buy them and then bake them.
Yes, like Lloyd does. Yeah.
Yeah, just like Lloyd does.
For anyone who's interested in this project, if you are a backer of it, we have a very special competition alongside the folks from Daka. They are once again going to offer you a chance to win your pledge. So if you are a pledger for Grimworld Battle for Underholme, and you come over to this post on OnTableTop, there'll be a link down below. You just need to comment down below that you're a backer. include your backer number, because that's always helpful, and tell us what you like about the campaign and which side you'll be fighting for. And you'll be entered into a random draw to win your pledge, not add-ons, just your pledge. And so if you've backed for one of the big sets that comes with both armies, you could get all of that written off and free for you. It'd be like Jerry backing a Westfalia Kickstarter and then not having to pay. I mean, how good would that be? So, yeah. But yes, and also on there, Daka.
It would be magical. Oh. On the plus side, I had 2 different Kickstarters arrived this week, from both sculpted by Boris, one from Westfalia and one from Wormforge. It's like, please, Boris, please stop.
I think Boris pays his rent based on your backing, I think, Jerry.
Oh, well, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Right, that wraps us up for another week. We shall return next Friday for more of the same. But if that's too long, come and join us over on tabletop.com on Sunday morning for our Cult of Games show, where an old friend has returned. At the turning of the dawn, Warren the White. You can join us for a 30-day free trial if you're not already a cultist, and give the site a kick, see if it falls over, and see what else you can find in there. Otherwise, we'll see you next Friday. Until then, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.